Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Jeske, and I'm here with my friend Tyler Pope, who's a 3D printing expert. We are going to jump right into Q&A. Tyler and I have known each other for a long time. We're going to go right into Q&A, and then we'll do contact information at the end. So, Tyler, welcome.
Hey, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you again. Hey, so can you give people kind of an update on how the everyday inventor could use 3D printing?
Well, the best thing about 3D printing is being able to quickly produce prototypes, and either prove your design is right, wrong. Getting to a definite answer on either one of those is a good thing. So that's the best way to utilize 3D printing, is just prove out what you're trying to design is going to function the way you expect it to, what it's going to look like, how it's going to work, and go on from there.
Great. It seems like 3D printing has really come a long way in the last couple of years since it came out. Can you kind of give us some insight on where you think it is today?
So it's been around over 30 years, and a lot of people realize that. So when patents expired, that opened up the home 3D printing market, and that's what really kind of got it into the minds of a lot more people. So with that, a lot of advancements in lower cost materials and home 3D printers and better CAD systems for everyday inventors and everyday people to use, the prices really come down to almost next to nothing for prototyping.
So we do see a lot of people buying home 3D printers now. So in your mind, what are the pros and cons of that kind of a decision?
So the pros are definitely that you're going to learn a lot about your product and be able to make iterations very quickly on your own without professional help, as long as you can do your own CAD work, and we can talk about that in a minute. But it's the just, again, being very quick and very inexpensively being able to reiterate your designs. That's the best thing about home 3D printing.
So you do have to do your own CAD work when you have a 3D printer.
So everything comes down to a CAD file. That's what the 3D printer reads, and that's how it creates a part. So if you have somebody that's doing your CAD work for you, great. If you don't and you think you want to learn it, there's a ton of online tools to learn how to do your own CAD work. But that's part of the downside of the 3D printing boom, is a lot of people bought these and expect them to kind of work like a toaster oven. Well, you really got to learn the upfront CAD work before you can even get into that. Otherwise, you're stuck just creating other people's designs.
Right. So whenever you do it yourself, you always have the increase in time and learning curve and maybe some quality distinctions. But possibly over time, the price could go down for you with buying your own materials versus hiring a company like yours. Now, do you guys work with independent inventors, or are you handling only big projects?
We handle everybody from independent inventors all the way up to big projects. So we're happy to discuss any project with anybody. But like I said, if you come in with a napkin sketch of what you'd like to do, you're about 2 or 3 steps ahead of needing 3D printing. So that's where a lot of people get kind of discouraged, is that you have to spend some money up front to get to the point where you need 3D printing. It's not just a instant type thing.
Right. So for the kind of products that I'm mostly looking for would be the little physically small, gadget type, everyday problem solving product. Is there a price range that you can throw out, like a minimum or a maximum that somebody might be able to expect? I know that's tough, but we're talking physically small products without a lot of materials.
If it fits in the palm of your hand, it's going to, for a service like ours, is going to be, $100 at least. But if you're working with like a hackerspace, or you're on 3D Hubs, which is a great resource for smaller 3D printers, the price can be, under $20. Wow. Per iteration, and that's pretty remarkable to be able to. It is
way remarkable.
Yeah, to be able to get into, and just test and test and test and refine and get something that you think is a tangible product.
Yeah, I love hearing that, because one of the things that's so important is for inventors to be able to get in at a reasonable price. But what we really need is a well-made prototype so we can test it and see if consumers are receptive. And I think these 2 steps should be done prior to patents and all of the other many activities that inventors need to do to get a product to market. So can you shed a little bit light, or you want to brag a little bit about what your company's done? Do you want to share any projects? What would you like to share?
Sure, we've worked with quite a few inventors. We've got one we're working on now. Can't really talk about it, but it's been multiple iterations, and now he's to the point where we're doing scaled down versions of his product, so that he can go to a trade show and communicate his product without having to drag around a very large piece. So that's another point of 3D printing, is just a communication tool. It doesn't have to be a full functioning prototype. Maybe it's something as big as we did some scaled down concrete blocks for a company because they were showing how their new design was going to fit together and everything. Well, they don't want to carry concrete blocks around, so they carried around shorter, smaller 3D printed parts. One person was doing an attachment for the window washer at the gas station, has a scraper and a better scrub brush on it. So we worked with him and came up with a design that worked for him, that's strapped to the top of it, and he was able to go out and pitch it to different gas stations because of that. So it wasn't a finished looking, injection molded looking part, but it got the point across. It was a great communication tool.
Yeah, that is a great attribute, I think, of 3D printing, is to communicate what the idea is. So many inventors struggle with that. So if you wanted to take it further, though, and produce a single prototype that looks as if it's a market ready, painted, colored, can 3D print prototyping do that?
It can in certain materials. Sorry, can I get this, Carrie?
No.
Sorry, hang on. Hang on.
This is actually kind of funny. This is the first time I've ever been interrupted by a phone call during a interview. So just one moment, please. Oh, well, you know what? This is what entrepreneurship is all about. That is so funny. This is the first time I've ever had someone take a call during a video interview.
I'm so sorry. My guy's supposed to have a damn phone with him, and he didn't.
That's so funny. Okay, so you were talking about the materials and the colors and the making it look market ready potential.
Yeah. So there is a process, and there's more coming out that can do full color products. And that will help you communicate, colors and images and everything on it. Now, the material types for those are rigid. Some of them are brittle. So if it's you got to kind of pick your right technology and the right material for what you're trying to communicate. If it needs to be functional and durable, then full color really isn't an option. But you can always have to.
Could you paint a 3D prototype?
Absolutely. We have a company up the street that does all our painting for us, and they make beautiful looking parts out of 3D printed, because we give them a very nice substrate to work off of first off, and then they're just doing some light sanding, some filling, and then painting them up, and they look injection molded. They look really good. That's
great. So what are the new materials that you see coming down the pike?
Well, metals is really hot in 3D printing, and they're getting better and better as far as lower cost equipment and cost of entry. It's still going to be very, very expensive to do a metal part. So if your product is very low volume and very complex and too complex to machine, then 3D printing is probably an option. If they're not, if they're designed to be machined, usually 3D printing is not a good option because of the cost barrier. But softer materials, multiple durometers, there's some materials out there that are like an AB type mixture that can get really, really hard over time. So there's a lot of new stuff coming out.
Any of these materials that you think could be used to reinvent existing types of products, like silicone came out and suddenly all the pans are different now? Different materials, microwave comes out, and now we need plastic cookware instead of metal. Anything with those materials where you think, wow, there's certain lines of products that are going to be revolutionarily changed with this material?
Absolutely, and one of the nice things about it is some of the processes you can change the material on the fly. So think of like a turbine blade for an aircraft engine. You can do 90% of the part in one material, but then the leading edge out of a harder material that can take more wear and tear. So those types of innovative ways of using 3D printing are coming up every day. And very large companies like GE, of course, is finding new ways to use it every day. Now, that's going to have a trickle-down effect. They're going to figure this stuff out. They're going to develop the technology. They're going to develop the materials, and then it will eventually become more mainstream.
Right there is a great technique, because if somebody were to keep an eye on a big company like GE and look at some of the big, nice new products they're launching, it could be that the everyday inventor could come up with an accessory, an offshoot, a separate feature or a selected feature to one of those. Using 3D printing, let us get it tested and get it to market. So there's a lot of money to be made now and in the future, and 3D printing is certainly a big part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot more products coming out that can only be made with 3D printing. Again, it's got to be low volume and highly complex to make it worth it. But those types of products, like medical products, there's a lot of prosthetic hand projects going on where it's very basic design, and it can be 3D printed anywhere in the world. So you don't need a child is growing up and their prosthetic would have to change almost every year. You can imagine it's just like buying them shoes. But if it's quickly adapted with 3D printing on a 6-month or a year basis, now they're more comfortable. They have better dexterity, and it's just an overall better product.
Wow, that is fantastic. Hey, any of you out there, if you have questions, go ahead and write them in the comments, and I'll get them over to Tyler, and we'll answer them on the fly as we go. Tyler, why don't you share a little bit about what you're doing now? You and I have known each other for years and through 2 states now. So share with the group what you're doing now and how they can contact you.
So we're in Minneapolis. We're a 3D print service bureau that has FDM, SLS, and SLA technology. So it's all very high-end equipment, high-end materials. And you can contact us through our website, 3dprintingally.com.
Great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else you think people should know or that you want to communicate right now?
Just keep inventing. It's that's kind of the way things work. New products and everything coming out every day, and somebody somewhere had to come up with those ideas. So just keep on going, and don't be afraid to fail, because if you figure out a product is not the right product, move on to one that is. So that's my big advice for most inventors is just don't be afraid to fail.